Hello, everybody. So today we are going to be now working towards Learning Target 7. I can label numbers with correct units, and Learning Target 8. I can do single and double step unit conversions. So your to-do list for today, you should have already completed step 1 of watching the scientific method video, and step 2, completing the Learning Target 2 through 6 assessment, which was a Google form. And now you are on to step 3, the final step, watching this lecture video and taking notes. So, as usual, let's start out with this daily review. So I want you to pause the video and take a moment to answer these 5 questions. So let's go over the answers here. What was the question for this experiment? So as you can see from the data table, they were looking at the number of chirps per minute, and they had 5 different crickets, and you can see they did a few different temperatures. So we know from this data table, they were looking at how does temperature affect chirp rate. And then number 2, what was the independent variable? Well, as we can see, they were changing the temperatures. So 15, 20, and 25 there. And then what was our dependent variable? What were we measuring and observing? That was the chirp rate, the number of chirps per minute. And then number 4, why were multiple crickets used in the experiment? And as we know, we always want to do multiple trials. And having multiple crickets is great because multiple trials reduces our variability. So we can start to see patterns better and making sure that our data makes sense. Number 5, what can be concluded from the data? So if we take a look here, we can see our average for 15 degrees Celsius, for 20 degrees Celsius, and 25 degrees Celsius. So what do we notice? We notice as the temperature was increasing, our chirp rates increased as well. All right, so let's get going on to today. We are going to be talking about conversion factors. And a conversion factor is the ratio of equal factors. So some common examples. We know 12 eggs is a dozen eggs. We buy those in the grocery store. And in 1 year, we have 365 days. And we know that there's 12 inches in 1 foot. And there's 1,000 meters in 1 kilometer. So now let's think, what is the conversion factor for days to hours? So we know that 1 day has 24 hours. So that would be our conversion factor. And now the other part we want to think about is what are the equivalent ratios for this conversion factor? And so our 2 equivalent ratios are as follows. We can see here that 1 day over 24 hours, that's our ratio. Or another ratio is 24 hours over 1 day. Now let's think about what is the conversion factor for feet to miles. So we know there is 5,280 feet in 1 mile. So let's think about what would be our equivalent ratios for this conversion factor. So again, we can think about it with our feet over our miles, 5,280 feet in 1 mile, or 1 mile over 5,280 feet. So again, make sure you're writing down these equivalent ratios. They will be helpful for you. And now let's think about the conversion factor for miles to kilometers. So in 1 mile, we have 1.61 kilometers. So let's think about our 2 ratios now for this. One ratio would be we have our 1 mile on top and our kilometers on the bottom, 1.61 kilometers. And the other way would be to flip it. We have our 1.61 kilometers over 1 mile. And so now we're going to start talking about dimensional analysis. So dimensional analysis is the method of canceling out units in order to convert between measurement systems. And so when we were talking about those conversion factors, the ratios, just a few slides ago, that's where it's going to come into play. We're going to use it in dimensional analysis. So let's take a look at this example here. We want to think about our starting amount, what we were given. We want to think about how it equals to get to our end amount. So we can see here we were given 24 inches. In some sort of problem, they said we want 24 inches, and then we knew we wanted to figure out how many feet. So we started with 24 inches, and then we know there are 12 inches in 1 foot. So in this process here, we were able to take how many inches we were given. We're going to use it here to convert our inches to our foot. And then we figure out here, we end up with 2 feet. So how did we get our 2 feet? Well, we start with canceling out our units. You can see the red slashes. Our inches canceled each other out. We had an inch on the top, we had our inches on the bottom. So that left us with our unit of foot or feet. So now we know that 24 times 1 is just 24, right? Multiplying by 1 just gives us the same number. So you can think of this as division here. 24 divided by 12 gets us to 2 feet. Now let's think about dimensional analysis wording. So there are several ways the problems can be worded. You can think about it as convert inches, 2 feet. How many inches are in a foot? How many inches equal this many feet? So there's many different ways we can think about it. So let's start here. Convert 24 inches to feet. So that's the problem we worked out on the last slide. We were taking our 24 inches and converting it into feet. So that's where we took our 24 inches with our conversion ratio of 1 foot is 12 inches. And so we know 24 divided by 12 gave us our 2 feet. Another way the same problem can be worded is how many feet does 24 inches equal? And so from there, again, same process. We started with our 24 inches. We used our conversion ratio, 1 foot and 12 inches, to end up with our 2 feet. So breaking down the question, I want you to always think of the units that are wanted and the units that are given. So let's take a look at each of these questions and statements. So our first one here, how many centimeters are in 5 inches? So we know we want to get to centimeters, but what were we given to start with? 5 inches. And now this other one, second one here, how many miles are in 3 kilometers? We want to get to miles. We want our end answer to be in miles, and we were given kilometers. Third scenario, convert 16 inches to feet. We were given the inches, and we want to get 2 feet. So let's work through one problem together. We want to convert 8 feet to inches. So what are we given? We are given 8 feet. What do we want to get to? We want to get to inches. So we are going to start with our 8 feet. And now we're going to multiply it by our conversion ratio. We know that in 1 foot, there is 12 inches. So from this step here, we cancel out our feet. Those units go away, and we're going to end up in our inches, our units wanted. So we do the math of 8 times 12. You can plug it into a calculator, equals 96 inches. All right, so remember, after this video, you can hit mark as done. And then that is it for your science task for the day. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me.